The hotel room was drenched in amber light from the Seoul skyline, casting shadows that danced across silk sheets. Jedida's heart hammered against her ribs as she stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows, her reflection staring back at her. A beautiful black woman in an emerald dress that hugged every curve, her braids cascading down her back like a waterfall of midnight. Having second thoughts? His voice was velvet and danger combined, spoken in that delicious accent that made her knees weak. She turned to face Minjun, all 6 feet of lethal elegance leaning against the doorframe, his dark eyes tracking her every movement like a predator who'd finally cornered his prey. The man was devastatingly handsome, sharp jawline, perfectly styled black hair with just enough dishevelment to seem effortless, and a body that his tailored Tom Ford suit could barely contain. "Should I be?" Jedida challenged, tilting her chin up. She'd learned in her 3 years in Korea that confidence was currency, and she was filthy rich. A slow smile curved his lips. "Most women run when they find out what I do. I'm not most women." "No," he agreed, pushing off the doorframe and stalking toward her with the grace of a panther. "You're really not." Earlier that evening, their blind date had started at an exclusive restaurant in Gangnam, the kind that didn't have prices on the menu because if you had to ask, you couldn't afford it. Jedida had been set up by her colleague, Mi-sun, who'd insisted she needed to live a little and stop spending every night working on marketing campaigns for their tech company. "He's successful, gorgeous, and available," Mi-sun had said. "What more do you want?" What Mi-sun hadn't mentioned was that Minjun was the heir to one of Korea's most powerful underground organizations. Jedida had figured it out halfway through dinner when 2 men in black suits had approached their table, whispering urgently in Korean. She'd picked up enough of the language to understand words like territory and problem and handled. Any sensible woman would have excused herself and never looked back. But Jedida had been sensible her entire life. She'd been sensible when she left her family in Atlanta to chase her dreams in Seoul. She'd been sensible through the loneliness, the cultural adjustments, the late nights building her career. Tonight, looking at Minjun across that table, the way his eyes had darkened when she laughed, the way his fingers had brushed hers when he'd poured her wine. Sensible was the last thing she wanted to be. Now, in his penthouse suite at the Signal Seoul, with the city glittering below them like scattered diamonds, Minjun stopped inches from her, close enough that she could smell his cologne, something woody and expensive that made her head spin. "I haven't done this in years," he admitted, his voice dropping an octave. "I made myself a promise. Discipline, control, no distractions." "Then why break it now?" Jedida whispered, even though she knew the answer. She'd felt it too, that inexplicable pull from the moment their eyes met, like the universe had been waiting to collide them together. His hand came up to cup her face, his thumb tracing her cheekbone with surprising gentleness. "Because you walked into that restaurant looking like every fantasy I didn't know I had, and when you smiled at me," he paused, his jaw clenching. "When you smiled at me, it felt like coming home after a war I'd been fighting my entire life." Her breath caught. "Minjun, tell me to stop," he said, his forehead resting against hers. "Tell me you want to leave, and I'll call my driver. No questions asked. You'll never see me again." It was the honorable thing, offering her an out. But Jedida had spent 3 years in a foreign country being overlooked, being told she was too dark, too curvy, too foreign. And here was this man, this powerful, dangerous, gorgeous man, looking at her like she was the only woman in the world. "What if I don't want to stop?" she breathed. The last thread of his control snapped. His lips crashed against hers with a hunger that made her gasp, and she immediately opened for him, her arms winding around his neck. He kissed like he did everything else, with absolute confidence and devastating skill. His hands spanned her waist, pulling her flush against him, and she could feel every hard plane of his body through their clothes. "Jedida," he groaned against her mouth, and hearing her name in his accent sent fire coursing through her veins. She worked at his suit jacket, pushing it off his shoulders while he found the zipper of her dress. The sound of it sliding down was obscenely loud in the quiet room. His lips moved to her neck, finding that sensitive spot that made her moan, and she felt him smile against her skin. "Responsive," he murmured. "I'm going to enjoy learning every sound you make." Her dress pooled at her feet, leaving her in nothing but her heels and black lace lingerie. She'd dressed for herself tonight, not expecting this, but grateful for her choice when his eyes went molten. "Absolutely stunning," he said reverently, drinking her in. "Every inch of you." She pulled him back to her, working at his shirt buttons with shaking fingers. "You're wearing too many clothes." His laugh was low and rich. Impatient. 3 years is a long time to feel invisible, she admitted, surprising herself with her honesty. "You make me feel seen." Something shifted in his expression. Softness mixed with steel. "Then let me show you exactly how I see you." He lifted her effortlessly, and she wrapped her legs around his waist as he carried her to the bed. The sheets were cool against her heated skin when he laid her down, following her immediately, his body covering hers in the most delicious way. What followed was a symphony of passion and connection, of whispered words in 2 languages, of touches that promised forever even though they'd just met. Minjun worshipped every inch of her bronze skin, erasing years of doubt with his hands and mouth, making her feel like the goddess she'd always been but never believed. And when they finally came together, moving in perfect synchronicity, Jedediah understood what he'd meant about coming home. This wasn't just physical. It was souls recognizing each other across time and space. Hours later, wrapped in Egyptian cotton sheets with Minjun's arm heavy across her waist, his breath even in sleep, Jedediah stared at the ceiling and wondered what the hell she'd just gotten herself into. Because men like Minjun didn't just have one-night stands, and women like her didn't date mafia bosses. But as his arm tightened around her, pulling her closer even in sleep, she couldn't bring herself to regret a single moment. Jedediah woke to sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows and the smell of coffee. For a blissful moment, she forgot where she was. Then she felt the expensive sheets against her bare skin, saw her emerald dress draped over a chair, and remembered everything. "Oh my God," she whispered, covering her face with her hands. "I was hoping you'd say my name instead, but I suppose I can work with that," she yelped, pulling the sheet up to her chin. Minjun stood in the doorway wearing nothing but black silk pajama pants that hung low on his hips, holding 2 cups of coffee. His hair was adorably mussed, and he looked even more devastating in the morning light than he had last night. "How long have you been awake?" she demanded. "Long enough to watch you sleep for a bit." He crossed the room, completely unbothered by his semi-nudity or her mortification. "You snore, by the way. It's cute." "I do not snore." "Like a tiny, beautiful chainsaw." He handed her a cup, his eyes crinkling with amusement. "Cream, no sugar." I guessed. The fact that he'd guessed right shouldn't have warmed her heart, but it did. She took a sip. "Perfect. Thank you." He sat on the edge of the bed, his expression turning serious. "We should talk about last night." Her stomach dropped. Here it came, the "this was a mistake" speech. She'd had fun, been someone else for a night, and now reality was crashing back in. She set down her coffee, preparing to gather her dignity along with her clothes. "Before you start planning your escape route," he said, clearly reading her mind, "I want to be clear about something. Last night wasn't a mistake, and I have no intention of letting you disappear." She blinked. "What?" "You heard me." He reached out, tucking a braid behind her ear. "I told you I'd been celibate for years. That wasn't an exaggeration. I've spent the last 5 years building my organization, cleaning up my father's messes, trying to make something legitimate out of a criminal empire. I didn't have time for relationships, and I refused to use women for physical release like they were disposable." "That's very noble?" His smile was wry. "Not noble. Practical. My world is dangerous, and anyone connected to me becomes a target. I couldn't justify putting someone at risk for something casual." "Then why break that promise for me?" Jedediah asked, genuinely confused. "We just met." Minjun was quiet for a moment, his fingers tracing absent patterns on her shoulder. "Do you believe in fate?" "I believe in hard work and good marketing strategies." He laughed, the sound rich and genuine. "Of course you do, but humor me. What if I told you that 6 months ago, I was in a car accident? Someone tried to take me out, rival organization, boring politics. I should have died. The car flipped 3 times. Jedida's breath hitched, her hand involuntarily reaching for his arm. I walked away with barely a scratch, he continued. And while I was trapped in that overturned car, waiting for my men to pull me out, I had this moment of absolute clarity. I thought, I'm 32 years old. I've built an empire. I have more money than I could spend in 3 lifetimes, and I've never actually lived. I've survived, schemed, fought, but I've never just lived. He looked at her then, his dark eyes intense. I made a promise to myself in that car. If I survived, I would stop waiting for the perfect moment, the safe moment, because in my world, that moment doesn't exist. And then you walked into that restaurant last night, and you decided to throw caution to the wind? She finished, trying to keep her tone light despite the emotion swelling in her chest. No, his hand cupped her face. I decided that some things are worth the risk. Before she could respond, his phone buzzed insistently on the nightstand. He glanced at it and cursed in Korean. Problem? She asked. There's always a problem. He stood, running a hand through his hair. I need to handle something. But you, he pointed at her. You stay. Order breakfast. Raid my closet. Take a bath in that ridiculous tub that cost more than a car. Just don't leave. Minjun, I have work. Call in sick. I can't just. He leaned down, kissing her thoroughly until her toes curled and her protests died in her throat. When he pulled back, his smile was smug. Call. In. Sick. And then he was gone, barking orders in Korean to whoever had called, leaving Jedida alone in his bed, her lips still tingling, her mind racing. She should leave. This was crazy. She couldn't date a mafia boss. No matter how charming or how good he was with his... Her phone buzzed. A text from Misun. OMG, how was the date? Tell me everything. Jedida groaned, flopping back against the pillows. How exactly did you tell your colleague that you'd spent the night with her setup and now said setup was acting like they were starting a relationship? Another text, this time from an unknown number. My driver will bring you anything you need from your apartment. Just text him your address. Also, I like you in my shirt. Consider keeping it. MJ. She looked down, realizing she'd somehow ended up in one of his white dress shirts while she was sleeping. It smelled like him. That woodsy, expensive cologne that made her head spin. Against her better judgment, Jedida smiled. Then she called in sick for the first time in 3 years. Jedida spent the morning in Minjun's penthouse feeling like she'd stepped into someone else's life, after texting his driver her address, which felt surreal in itself. She'd explored the space with growing fascination and mild terror at what she'd gotten herself into. The penthouse was massive, occupying the entire top floor of the Signal Seoul. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a 360-degree view of the city, from the Han River snaking through the urban landscape to Namsan Tower piercing the sky. The decor was minimalist but clearly expensive. All clean lines, dark woods, and subtle luxury. Original artwork hung on the walls, pieces she recognized from her art history classes that probably cost more than her entire apartment building. But what struck her most was how lived in it felt despite the obvious wealth. There were books in Korean and English scattered on the coffee table, a pair of sneakers kicked off by the door, a jacket draped over a chair. This wasn't just a showpiece. Someone actually lived here. She was examining a collection of what looked like first edition novels when the doorbell chimed. The driver, a surprisingly young man who introduced himself as Ji-hoon, arrived with a suitcase containing her clothes, toiletries, and, bless him, her laptop. Mr. Kong said you might need to work, Ji-hoon explained in perfect English, his expression carefully neutral despite surely knowing exactly what his boss had been up to last night. He also asked me to give you this. He handed her a small box. Inside was a phone, sleek, black, and clearly top of the line. His personal number is already programmed, Ji-hoon continued, along with mine, his head of security and emergency contacts. He insists you keep it on you at all times. Jedida stared at the phone. This is insane. We've known each other for less than 24 hours. Ji-hoon's expression softened slightly. Mr. Kong is intense. When he decides something is important, he protects it completely. It's not romantic. It's just who he is. That's supposed to make me feel better? No, Ji-hoon admitted. But it should make you feel safe. There's no one more dangerous than Mr. Kong when someone he cares about is threatened. After Ji-hoon left, Jedida showered in the massive bathroom. He'd been right about the ridiculous tub, and changed into her own clothes, though she noticed she'd unconsciously chosen her most attractive outfit. High-waisted black pants and a fitted burgundy blouse that made her skin glow. She was just setting up her laptop when the new phone buzzed. MJ, Ji-hoon says you look beautiful. I told him he's fired for looking at you long enough to notice. Despite herself, she laughed and typed back. You can't fire someone for having eyes. MJ, watch me. How's your morning? Surreal. I'm sitting in a penthouse that costs more than I'll make in my lifetime, wearing a phone that's probably worth 3 months' salary, because I slept with a man I just met. MJ, you forgot devastatingly handsome. I slept with a devastatingly handsome man I just met. Jedida, your humility is truly inspiring. MJ, one of my best qualities. Listen, I'm stuck in meetings until evening. Dinner tonight? There's a place I want to take you. Jedida, I should probably go home. Actually sleep in my own bed. Process whatever this is. MJ, but you won't. Because you're curious. Because you felt it too. Because you're brave enough to see where this goes. She stared at the message, her heart doing that annoying flutter thing again. He was right, damn him. She should run. This was every red flag wrapped in Armani and dangerous smiles. But she'd spent 3 years playing it safe, and where had it gotten her? Lonely nights in a small apartment, eating ramen and watching K-dramas, wondering if she'd made a mistake moving halfway across the world. Jedida, fine, but I'm picking the place. And we're having a real conversation about what this is. MJ, deal. I'll pick you up at 7. We're something you can move in. Jedida, why would I need to move? MJ, you'll see. At 6:45 p.m., Jedida was second-guessing every life choice that had led to this moment. She'd compromised on the outfit. A flowy black midi skirt with a tucked-in white crop top and comfortable sneakers. Her braids pulled up in a high ponytail. Casual but cute, comfortable but confident. When Minjun arrived at precisely 7 p.m., apparently punctuality was important to him. She nearly swallowed her tongue. He ditched the suit for dark jeans, a black t-shirt that should be illegal with the way it hugged his chest, and a leather jacket. He looked like every bad decision wrapped up in one perfect package. You're staring, he said, clearly pleased. You look like you're about to film a music video. Is that a compliment? It's an observation. She grabbed her purse. Where are we going? It's a surprise. 20 minutes later, they pulled up to a building in Hongdae, the artsy university district. Music thumped from inside. Loud, energetic, and decidedly not what she expected from a Mafia boss's idea of a date. A dance club? She asked skeptically. Not quite. He grinned, taking her hand and leading her inside. It wasn't a club, it was a dance studio. Specifically, a hip-hop class that was just starting. Jedida turned to him, eyebrows raised. You said you wanted to know the real me? Minjun said, suddenly looking almost nervous, which was absurdly endearing. Before I took over my father's organization, before the suits and the meetings and the territory disputes, I wanted to be a dancer. Spent every free moment in studios like this. You're serious? Dead serious. My father nearly disowned me when he found out I was skipping business meetings to practice. His expression darkened briefly. Eventually, he made it clear that my dreams were incompatible with my responsibilities. So I gave it up. But I still come here once a week. It's the only time I feel like myself. Jedida's heart cracked a little at the vulnerability in his voice. This dangerous man, this criminal, had dreams he'd sacrificed. Just like she'd sacrificed proximity to her family to chase her career in Korea. Okay, she said softly. Teach me. His whole face lit up. Really? Really? But I'm warning you, I have rhythm but zero training. I'm about to embarrass us both. Impossible. You could never embarrass me. The class was exhilarating and humbling in equal measure. Minjun moved with a fluid grace that was mesmerizing, his body control absolute. The instructor, a guy named Taeyong who clearly knew Minjun well, showed them a routine to a Megan Thee Stallion song, and Jedida threw herself into it with determination. She was clumsy at first, mixing up moves, going left when she should go right. But Minjun was patient, his hands guiding her hips, his body close to hers as he demonstrated the movements. And when she finally got a sequence right, the pride on his face made her feel like she'd won an Olympic medal. "You're a natural," he said during the water break, both of them breathing hard, sweat making his shirt cling to him in ways that should be illegal. "You're a liar, but I appreciate it." She took a long drink. "Why did you really bring me here?" He was quiet for a moment, his expression serious. "Because you needed to know that I'm more than what you saw last night. Yes, I run an organization that operates in gray areas. Yes, I'm dangerous when I need to be. But I'm also a man who loves dancing, who reads poetry, who cries at sad movies even though I'll deny it if you tell anyone." "You cry at sad movies?" "Coco destroyed me. I'm not ashamed." Jedida laughed, the sound surprised out of her. "Okay. That's actually adorable." "I'm not adorable. I'm intimidating and mysterious." "You're adorable when you pout about not being intimidating." He moved closer, his hand coming up to cup her face, thumb brushing her cheek. "Jedida, I need you to understand something. My world is complicated and dangerous. If we really do this, there will be risks. People will talk. Some will try to use you against me. My enemies will see you as a weakness." "That's a terrible sales pitch," she whispered, even as she leaned into his touch. "I know, but you deserve honesty. You deserve to know what you're getting into." His eyes searched hers. "But I also need you to know that if you choose me, I will protect you with everything I have. No one will touch you. No one will hurt you. I promise you that." "How can you promise something like that?" "Because I've already decided you're mine to protect." His voice was fierce. "From the moment you walked into that restaurant, you became the most important thing in my world. I know it's crazy. I know it's too fast. But I've spent my whole life calculating risks and rewards. And you, Jedida Williams, are worth every risk." Her breath caught. "That's a lot of pressure for a second date." "I know. So tell me to back off. Tell me you need time, need space. I'll give you whatever you need. But I won't pretend I don't want this. Want you with everything in me." Jedida looked at this man. This complicated, dangerous, surprisingly sweet man, and made a decision that would change her life forever. "I don't want you to back off," she said. "I want to see where this goes. But Minjun, I need you to know something too. I'm not some delicate flower that needs constant protection. I came to Korea alone. I built a career in a country where people told me I'd never fit in because of my skin color. I survived 3 years of loneliness and prejudice and homesickness. I'm stronger than I look." Pride flashed in his eyes. "I know you are. That's why I'm not worried about you handling my world. I'm worried about my world handling you. You're going to turn everything upside down, and I can't wait to watch." Smooth talker. "I have many talents." He grinned, then grabbed her hand. "Come on, let's finish this class. Then I'm taking you for street food because that fancy restaurant last night was impressive, but I actually want to talk to you without a sommelier hovering." They finished the class, Jedida actually getting most of the final routine right, and then wandered through the streets of Hongdae, eating tegbaki from a street vendor, sharing hadiak, laughing at nothing and everything. Minjun told her about growing up with the weight of his father's empire, about his mother who'd left when he was young, about his younger sister who was studying art in Paris, safely away from the family business. Jedida told him about Atlanta, about her huge family and Sunday dinners, about how she'd always felt like she needed to be twice as good to get half the recognition, about the culture shock of Korea and the small moments of beauty that made her fall in love with the country despite the challenges. And somewhere between the third street food stall and a random noribang where Minjun insisted they sing a duet, he was terrible at singing but enthusiastic. Jedida realized she was falling for him. Not just the attraction, not just the chemistry, but the real person beneath the dangerous exterior. It was terrifying. It was exhilarating. It was happening whether she was ready or not. Jedida should have known it couldn't last. 3 weeks of stolen moments, secret dates, and nights wrapped in Minjun's arms. 3 weeks of feeling like she was the protagonist of her own K-drama. It was too perfect, too bubble-like, and bubbles always burst. The bursting happened on a Tuesday morning at work. She was in a meeting, presenting her marketing campaign for their new app launch, when her phone buzzed. Once, twice, 17 times. She ignored it, professional to the core, even as her boss, Director Kim, frowned at the disruption. When the meeting finally ended and she checked her phone, her stomach dropped. 12 missed calls from Minjun, 5 from Jihoon, 23 texts, and one that made her blood run cold. MJ, stay at work. Don't leave the building. Jihoon is coming to get you. There's been a situation. Before she could respond, Mi-sun rushed over, her phone clutched in her hand, eyes wide. Jedida, you need to see this, she whispered urgently. Glancing around to make sure no one was listening, she pulled up a Korean news site. The headline made Jedida's world tilt. Gang violence erupts in Gangnam. Kang Minjun's organization under attack. There were photos, grainy but clear enough. A warehouse on fire, police everywhere, and a picture of Minjun being led away in handcuffs. His face expressionless, blood on his shirt. Oh my God, Jedida breathed. Is that... Mi-sun's eyes were enormous. Jedida, is that the guy I set you up with? I need to go. You can't. Director Kim is... But Jedida was already moving, grabbing her bag. Her phone pressed to her ear as she dialed Jihoon. He answered on the first ring. Miss Williams. Where are you? At work. What happened? Is Minjun okay? The news says. Don't believe the news. Mr. Kang is fine. He's being questioned, but he'll be released within hours. This is a setup by a rival organization. But you need to come with me now. They're trying to flush out his weaknesses. I'm his weakness. She realized, her voice hollow. You're what he cares about, Jihoon corrected. Which makes you valuable. I'm outside your building. Black car, license plate ending in 7749. Come now, please. The next few hours were a blur. Jihoon drove her not to the penthouse but to a house outside Seoul. A traditional hanok hidden behind high walls and sophisticated security. Inside, she met people she'd only heard mentioned in passing. Minjun's second-in-command, a terrifyingly efficient woman named Eugene. His lawyer, Mr. Choi, who looked like a college professor but apparently had the legal system in his pocket. And his sister, Hannah, who'd flown in from Paris the moment she heard. Hannah was beautiful, delicate features, sharp eyes, and an artist's soul in designer clothes. She sized up Jedida immediately. So you're the woman my brother has lost his mind over, she said in perfect English. I'm Jedida, and I'm sorry we're meeting like this. Don't be sorry, be prepared. Because if you're serious about my brother, this is your life now. Chaos and danger and constantly looking over your shoulder. Hannah, Eugene warned. What? She should know. Hannah turned back to Jedida. My brother hasn't cared about anyone like this since. Well, ever. He's terrifying when he's emotional. And right now, he's worried about you. Which means he's going to burn down half of Seoul to keep you safe. I can take care of myself, Jedida said, lifting her chin. Hannah smiled, sharp and approving. Oh, I like you. Maybe you'll survive him after all. Minjun arrived after sunset, bursting through the door like a storm. His eyes scanned the room until they found her, and the relief on his face was so naked it hurt to witness. You're okay, he said, crossing to her in 3 strides and pulling her into his arms. I'm fine. You're the one who was arrested. A formality. They had nothing. He pulled back, cupping her face, his eyes searching hers. I'm sorry. This is exactly what I wanted to avoid. What happened? He sighed, leading her to sit on the couch, keeping her hand in his. Eugene, Hannah, and the others discreetly left the room. Do you know what I actually do? Minjun asked. What my organization really is? I know it's not exactly legal. We started in protection rackets and gambling, back in my grandfather's time. My father expanded into drugs and human trafficking. His jaw clenched. When I took over 5 years ago, I cleaned house, cut ties with the drug trade, shut down the trafficking operations, fired anyone who wouldn't adapt. Now we focus on what I call gray market operations, gambling, yes, but regulated. Protection that's more like private security. We've even invested in legitimate businesses, tech startups, real estate. You're trying to go legitimate, Jedediah realized. I'm trying to build something my future children won't be ashamed of. He looked at her intensely. But that means making enemies. The old guard, the organizations that profited from the drug trade, they see me as a traitor. They've been trying to take me down for years. And today they framed me for a weapons deal I had nothing to do with. Anonymous tip, fake evidence planted at one of our warehouses. It won't stick, Mr. Choi made sure of that, but it sends a message. They're willing to escalate. Jedediah was quiet for a moment, processing. And I'm leverage now. You're a target, he corrected, his voice tight. I should have been more careful. I should have. Stop. She put her hand on his chest. I knew what I was getting into. Did you? His laugh was bitter. Did you really? Because knowing abstractly that I'm dangerous and actually being dragged into my world are very different things. Minjun, look at me. She waited until his eyes met hers. I'm not some naive girl. I knew there would be complications. I just didn't think they'd come this fast. So what do we do? His voice was vulnerable in a way she'd never heard before. Because Jedediah, I can't lose you, but I also can't ask you to live like this. Guards following you everywhere. Always looking over your shoulder, wondering if every stranger is a threat. She thought about Atlanta, about the safe, predictable life she could have had, about the accounting job her mother had wanted her to take, the nice church boy she was supposed to marry, the white picket fence existence that had felt like a cage. Then she looked at Minjun, complicated, dangerous, broken in places but trying so hard to be better. And she realized something important. I didn't come to Korea for safe, she said finally. I came here because I wanted more. More life, more adventure, more everything. And you, Kong Minjun, are definitely more. Hope flickered in his eyes. So you're not running? I'm not running, but I have conditions. Name them. First, you teach me self-defense. If I'm going to be a target, I want to be able to protect myself. Done. Eugene is the best. She'll train you. Second, you don't make decisions about my safety without consulting me. I'm not a child or a possession. We're partners or we're nothing. He nodded slowly. Agreed. What else? Third. She took a breath. You let me in. Completely. No more half-truths or protected information. If we're doing this, I need to know everything. For a long moment, he just looked at her. Then he pulled her into his lap, his arms wrapping around her waist, his forehead resting against hers. You're terrifying, you know that? He murmured. Most people run from my world. You're demanding a front row seat. I'm from Atlanta. We don't run from anything. He laughed, the sound surprised and genuine. Okay, you win. Full transparency. Complete partnership. But Jedediah, you need to understand, once you're fully in, you can't unknow what you learn. You can't unsee what you see. I know. And you're still choosing this? Choosing me? She kissed him softly, a promise sealed with lips and breath and hope. I'm choosing us. Outside, Seoul glittered in the darkness. A city of millions where two unlikely people had found each other. Inside, a mafia boss and a marketing executive held each other, knowing the road ahead would be dangerous and complicated and probably insane. But they'd walk it together.
Hello besties, the story is only getting started. Stay tuned for episode 2. Kindly like, subscribe and share.